daily habits impact your pelvic floor, and that includes masturbation. That's a subject no one talks about, and this video is going to explore that to some degree. You gotta understand that there are certain lifestyles and certain habits that we have that negatively impact us. I'm not here to tell you if masturbation is okay or not. I'm going to tell you what and how masturbation correlates with the mechanics of your pelvis and your pelvic stability or instability. Pelvic floor dysfunction is like a book name that comes with a lot of different chapters. Some of these symptoms that you may be aware of are things that everyone knows about. Kind of like pelvic floor dysfunction is like incontinence, like sexual dysfunction. There are symptoms related to pelvic floor dysfunction that are not necessarily thought of as symptoms of pelvic floor dysfunction. For instance, chronic lower back pain, chronic SI joint pain, chronic hip mobility issues, lower extremity issues, holding your breath, clenching your pelvis, clenching your perineum. Your perineum is that space between the genitals and the anus. All of those are things that people don't think about, but they're related to pelvic floor dysfunction. Now back to masturbation. In my practice, I noticed that during COVID and after COVID, where people were at home and they, I guess, had nothing else to do, the incidence of masturbation, the frequency went up. And that came with an aftermath of pelvic floor related issues. So most of these, almost all of them, were men. In my experience, in my practice, they were men that they just over masturbated. So when we think about, let's say, male masturbation, it's very different than if there is an actual sexual intercourse, because most often people are sitting or laying down and that pelvic thrust does not exist. That proper pelvic movement does not exist. Now, when that happens, we end up engaging muscles that are not meant to be used for movement. They are to support the movement, but not used for movement. And also muscles that really, like perineum. Your perineum is what keeps the inside, and of course it holds the sphincters. You should not move it or use it for movement, and yet people who over masturbate end up using that. They end up using their perineum for regular movements, for support, to stand up. So when we limit the pelvic movement because of the method of masturbation, now we create a dysfunctional pattern of movement that over time materialize, they spread and involve the whole body. So now what needs to happen is we need to go in, number one, kill a habit that created the problem. I'm not telling you not to masturbate. I'm just telling you there is an alternative. So for example, in my opinion, from biomechanical perspective, it makes more sense to be standing up. It makes more sense to mimic what we would be doing in a missionary style of sexual intercourse, where your pelvis has more thrusting ability. I didn't say trusting, I said thrusting ability. So just to clarify. So when you mimic and create an environment that is much more similar to what naturally we would be doing, you have a better chance of not hurting yourself. So what do we do when the damage is done? Well, we kill the habit or modify the thing that created it, and we go back and we start changing the alterations and compensations. The change starts with proper breathing. Proper breathing is the type of breathing we learn by studying human babies. I call that biological breathing. If you had subscribed to my channel, you'd know what that looks like. But if you haven't, please make sure you do. And we'll make sure that we put that video at the end of this video so you get to see it and you get to practice it. This is how naturally we relax the muscles inside the pelvis when we breathe in, and the same muscles come together in the process of breathing out. So every breath conditions those muscles to relax and to work together. At a frequency of every breath, this is a requirement for your body to have. So when you alter it, you're doing a lot more damage than you realize, especially given that on average, if you're not even that active, you breathe 22,000 times a day. So doing something 22,000 times a day wrong is a lot of wrong. So doing biological breathing sounds easy, but because you've done it wrong so many times, it's not going to come easy to you. But don't give up, keep practicing. The next thing we want to do is, in my practice, I use developmental exercises, the same exercises you did as a baby, to then become a running toddler. There was a time in your life that you could barely hold your head up, and you and I and every walking human being on the planet Earth has gone through those same stages of movement to become a running toddler. So I use those same methods to teach my patients and my clients what right looks like, what stability needs to be like, how to create that, what your default version is, how to replace your version with the right. So when you own that knowledge, this is something that doesn't come out of a printer because I clicked print on my software. This is something you need to learn. This is something that you need to be able to duplicate. This is the same thing you use to fix a problem as well. So developmental exercises, in my opinion, are the answer to exercises needed to bring proper mechanics, removing dysfunction, replacing dysfunctional patterns of movement with functional patterns of movement. I hope this made sense. If you have any issues related to pelvic instability causing pelvic floor dysfunction, please make sure you contact me using one of the methods of contact in the description box. And until next time, take care.